So Clemens, in the first inning, gave up the double to Joiner. He walked Jackson and DeSensei with a 410-foot out. And now here in the second, after striking out Wilfong and Schofield, he's walked Boone and Pettis. And he's 2-1 on Rupert Jones, who rips one into center field for a base hit. Boone lumbers around third, and Armis's throw is cut off as he throws toward third, and the Angels take the lead. Down the line in left field and hooking away from Rice and in for a base hit, and that will score Pettis. Jones stops at third. Joiner has a pair of doubles, and the Angels lead 2-0 in the second inning. Rip to left field into the gap, and that's in there for extra bases. 2 more runs score, and Fenway will become very quiet as the Angels lead 4-0. And it's Mike Witt going all the way as the Angels take the first game of the ALCS 8-1.
Now the lineup today for the California Angels. They start with Rick Burleson, who is the designated hitter, and then Wally Joiner, the rookie first baseman. Brian Downing, one of last night's stars, hits third. Doug DeSensei is the cleanup hitter. Hendrick is the platooning right fielder. Grich at second base. Batting seventh, Dick Schofield. Bob Boone is the Angel catcher, and the batting ninth is the center fielder, Gary Pettis. So that's the lineup. The Angels will send up against left-hander Bruce Hurst, pitcher of the month in the American League in September. He talks about a left-hander in Fenway.
I've been asked the question a lot, how come the lefties, how come I'm winning here? And is it tough to win here as a left-hander? And I don't really think it is. Over the years, Bill Lee, I think, had a winning record here, and Tudor and Bobby Oida both had winning records here. So I think it's more or less a myth that a lefty can't win here. And between Bill Lee and us three, Tudor, Oida, and I, there hasn't been any lefties in between, so you can't compare it to anybody. So I don't think that you have to change as a left-handed pitcher. You don't have to do anything different here. You just stay within yourself and make good pitches like you do in any ballpark or against any team. I think you get good results.
And the first pitch is a good pitch for a strike. And the count 0-1 as we're underway in game 2. Burleson, Joiner, and Downing in bright sunshine at Fenway Park. And it's quickly 0-2.
When you talk about the bright sunshine, that's something that the hitters are going to have to contend with. Right now, they are both the pitcher and the hitter in the sun, but pretty soon you can see the shadows creeping up. It's much more difficult to see the ball. You've got the good case in point is staying within yourself, something that Roger Clemens was unable to do last night, and much a little bit more of a thrower than a pitcher.
Burleson looping it to shallow right field, and Barrett makes the catch, and that will be the Sun field. In another hour or so, the sun will be shining directly into the eyes of the second baseman and right fielder. One gone. Joiner coming up. And the Red Sox defensively, the outfield of Rice, Armis, and Evans. The infield, Boggs at third, Owen at short, Barrett at second, and Buckner at first. Gedman back of the plate. And Hurst working now on Joiner with 1 out, and the base is empty. Wally Joiner with a couple of hits last night. Both doubles. He doubled in the first inning to right and then doubled to left down the line in the second inning to drive in a run. The American League's all-star first baseman, voted in as a rookie, and drove in 100 runs this season.
We talked a little bit last night about somewhat dismal second half, especially when you compare it to the first half, but the 2 doubles last night, one right down the left field line, went with a fastball, and then got a 2-1 pitch the first time and drilled it to right field. I talked to him before the game, and he said he had a heart-to-heart talk with Bobby Knopf, who's the first base coach, and he said, yes, I am tired, but you don't get in the playoffs very often, so let's go all out. And last night he was able to do that.
2 balls and 2 strikes to count.
An interesting thing about what Bruce Hurst said is that stay within yourself. He's got an overpowering fastball well into the 90-mile-per-hour range, good overhand curveball, but the pitch that has really made him the big winner. And if you look at his record, a couple of 12-game winning seasons here in Boston, last year 11 and 13, this year missed 45 days with a groin injury. He's come up with a forkball that gives him that third pitch, which makes the other 2 pitches that much better.
Grounded to third. Boggs knocking it down, and that's all. Wade getting there and then having no play on it, and so Joiner is on.
Again, another example why Wally Joiner is such a good hitter. Hurst makes a good pitch away. Doesn't try to pull it, just reaches out and pokes it. Boggs playing off the line, playing the percentage type of baseball, playing the gaps where the balls are mostly hit, keeps it from being a double.
So Joiner at first base on what is scored a base hit, and Downing at the plate. And the 1-2 pitch. Sheens is grounded toward third. Boggs goes to second for the force out. So Downing hits into a force. Joiner is gone, and with 2 down, it'll bring up the Sensei.
That was that little fork ball that we talked about, and if you're wondering what a fork ball is, it's thrown very similar to a pitch that if you've been listening to really any Major League Baseball all year, or you've gone to the ballpark, and if you're going to be tuning in tonight to watch Dwight Gooden and Mike Scott pitch in the National League first playoff game, it's the split finger fastball, except the fork ball is thrown a little bit slower, except that Hurst has such an outstanding arm. It looks like a split finger fastball, drops on the way to home plate.
The Sensei hits a fly ball to shallow right field, and Evans coming over with Armish, and it's Evans making the catch, and the sun already creating some problems. After a half, California nothing, Boston coming up. Let's take a look now at the lineup for the Boston Red Sox. Wade Boggs to lead things off at third base, and then Marty Barrett batting second. As was the case last night, Buckner hits third, Rice hits fourth, and Baylor is the DH. Dwight Evans in right. Gedman batting in the 7th spot. Armish hitting 8th, and Spike Owen the shortstop. Same lineup as McNamara employed in Game 1. Meanwhile, Kirk McCaskill working for the Angels, and here's Bob Boone's assessment of him.
Kirk has come very fast for the Angels. He's got tremendous talent, outstanding fastball, 2 breaking balls, and a changeup. Has really developed into one of the top pitchers in the league with his consistency, and it's something that he learned maybe after about 3 months of pitching in the big leagues. He's gotten better and better since about the halfway point of last year, and he is one of the top pitchers in our league right now.
Defensively for the Angels, Downing, Pettis, and Hendrick. The infield, the Sensei, Schofield, Grich, and Joiner. Boone catching. And Mr. Palmer, your assessment of Kirk McCaskill.
Well, I kind of have to agree with Bob Boone. He really has improved. Last year, a 12-game winner. This year, look at the graphics, 17 wins. The earned run average has come down a run a game. I think he points to one game last year. He said he had a no-hitter going late in the year against Detroit. Gibson hit a home run. And he said the biggest thing he had, and if you really look at his career, Al, he has only pitched about 600 innings. So you will no doubt document his past history as a hockey player at the University of Vermont and so forth, but really has not pitched that much and has learned how to pitch in the major leagues, and he's done it well. He's kind of canned the slider, gone for basically a changeup, a curveball, and a fastball that I think the hitters describe as sneaky. He's not overpowering like Witt or Clemens, but the ball gets up there in a hurry, and when you mix it with the other 2 pitches, he's very successful. Is a strikeout pitcher.
That's exactly the way he described himself the other day when I asked him for a self-scouting report. Sneaky fast. Boggs to lead things off. Boggs, Barrett, and Buckner in the bottom of the 1st inning. No score in Game 2. In the air to deep left center field, and Pettis looking up at the wall. It is off the wall and bounding away from him. Hendrick picks it up and throws a rainbow to third, and backed up by McCaskill as Boggs triples.
They've been trying to get him out with curveball. There is one up in the strike zone. This is a hitter's type of day. Flag blowing straight out. Right there, Pettis sees the ball is going to be off the wall, and then the caroms over his head. Hendricks is there. Makes a strong throw to third, but you can see it's very high. And an alert Kirk McCaskill backing up, or the ball goes in the dugout for not an inside park home run, but a triple and a run on plated for the Red Sox on the throwing error by Hendricks.
Pettis looked like he was in a high life Swanton. As it bounded away, Boggs gets a triple. The infield plays back, and the pitch is inside. Ball 1 to Barrett. 1-0 the count.
I think going into this series, there was a question. Boggs missed the entire last weekend with a hamstring pull. Certainly did not seem to bother him on that triple.
Nearly a wild pitch. 2-0. And so the crowd sitting on its hands last night, not much to cheer about, very much into it very early today. And the 3-2 to Barrett is hit down the line in right field for a base hit. That scores Boggs. Hendrick plays the carom. Barrett has a double. The Red Sox have the lead.
Just like last night, the only run the Red Sox scored was on a single to right field by Barrett. A fastball up and away again. This time he hits it right down the line. Very difficult corner. The ball gets by. He has 3 bases. Hendricks makes the play. Barrett easily into second with a double. So you've seen a poke ball down the line that just stayed fairly fair. A routine fly ball to left field, but because of the dimensions of this ballpark and the way the wind's blowing, we're looking at a 1-0 deficit and a runner in scoring position.
And Barrett's 3rd hit of this young series. He was the only Red Sox with 2 last night. Buckner is the batter in there, and the count is 0-1. In 16 innings of work this season against Boston, McCaskill had not yielded an earned run. He's given up 2 runs, both unearned. So an earned run here in the bottom of the first. 1-0 Boston. Barrett at second, and nobody out.
And if you're Billy Buckner, you do want to pull the ball. You want to advance Barrett to 3rd base.
Hit to center sharply, but right to Pettis, who makes the play. And a little jump as well, and it's a little tough even at this hour with the sun relatively high in the sky, and it's going to get worse for the outfielders. And it's going to get worse, as you can see, for the hitters very shortly, as that shadow line extends past the plate. Jim Rice, 0 for 4 last night. Grounded to the left side, and Schofield gets Barrett in a rundown and tags him out. And a nice play by Dick as Barrett got caught, hung up between second and third. And not only does Schofield do the job, he does it without a rundown, and he does it by keeping Rice at first base.
Well, this is a no-no again. Any ball hit to your right as a base runner, you can see right there Marty realizes he's made a mistake. And this is the good part of the play. Little fake by Dick, the tag, and Rice doesn't have a chance to advance.
So Don Baylor is at the plate. Outside on the count 1-0. If anybody would know how to execute a rundown play, it would be Schofield. He's known about that, I'm sure, since he's been able to walk. His father was able to do that with perfection through the years. Drilled to left field and by Downing and off the fence and into third on a long single goes Rice. And what a big play now with Barrett getting hung up between second and third. Still 1-0 instead of 2-0. And the crowd coming down on third base coach Rene Laxman, contending he should have sent Rice in.
Well, he might have sent him in, but they would have sent him back to the dugout for the 3rd out.
Absolutely.
Again, Downing makes a good play. What you try to do here is play really deep enough where you can get back for the line drive, except Baylor hit the ball so hard, Downing had no chance to do that, but also shallow enough so you can come in and catch the line drive over shortstop.
Now Evans with runners at first and third looks at a strike. So a triple off the wall by Boggs. Barrett with a double down the right field line. Buckner hit a shot to center. Baylor hits a shot off the wall. And there's a shot to center field, and Pettis gingerly comes in and makes the catch. So McCaskill was no mystery in the first. The Red Sox get a run and lead 1-0.
Cy Young Award winner Dwight Gooden goes against the man who could win it this year. 1986 strikeout king Mike Scott. New York meets Houston, Game 1 tonight.
George Hendrick. Right field,
In
Hendrick.
Boston, Al Michaels and Jim Palmer, Game 2 of the American League Championship Series. Angels winning last night by a score of 8-1. And Bobby Grich will be up second. Talks about his recent thumb injury.
We played KC in Kansas City, and Danny Jackson threw an excellent game against us, and he was pounding that hard slider in. Jammed me a couple times, broke a couple bats, went over to Texas and did the same thing on Thursday night over there. Broke 2 bats over there, got jammed. So just the nerve and the base of my thumbs got beat up a little bit. But so I took three days off in Texas, tried to get the thing healed up, and it's come around for me. I'll be wearing a little fiberglass pad on it with some foam underneath it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll be out there somehow.
And there is Grich, who is on deck as Hendrick leads off in the second inning. George Hendrick at the plate. 1 ball and 1 strike. Waves at the split finger and misses, and the count 1-2.
Another forkball, and it's interesting. The very important pitcher, as we said last night, for the California Angels, Donnie Moore, and what the pitch that sets up his repertoire, the fastball and the slider, again, is the forkball. You ask the hitter, what is the difference between a split-fingered fastball and a forkball? They normally say, in most cases, you can pick up the forkball a little bit earlier, but not off Bruce Hurst. He throws so hard.
Hendrick waves at another one and doesn't get it. And it's the first strikeout for Hurst. 1 away here in the second inning.
And we just talked about having a good enough fastball to establish something, and there's the forkball. You see the bottom just drop out, and the natural reaction, you think the ball is going to stay about knee high. You go to hit it in that area, and all of a sudden it's about 6 inches lower. And when you do hit it, it's a ground ball. Very effective pitch.
Now Bobby Grich. Check swing foul. Grich, for the most part, platooned this year. And that was the case last night as well, with Rob Wilfong getting the start. And this could very well be the swan song for Bobby Grich. Some question as to whether he'll be back with the Angels or whether he'll be back at all next year. And in talking with him the other day, I got the feeling that he's about ready to wrap it up.
We talked last night. We saw him with the Eskimo jacket on. He'd like to have all 7 games played in Anaheim. He's grown up in Long Beach. Played for the Orioles. He's an outstanding shortstop at the minor league level. Came up, was Golden Glove second baseman. And I think the happiest thing is going back to the Angels. He's really signed with them twice. So if he would play at all, there's only one chance, and that would be in Anaheim. And again, he's one of the tenuous 9, so to speak. They have an option on his services. But he said there's only a small crack in the door that he will play again. It would only be in Anaheim.
Broken bat, little looper into left center field, and that finds its way in for a base hit. So the Angels, with their second hit, Joiner with the infield single in the first, and now Grich shattering his bat and reaching here with 1 out in the second inning, and Schofield coming up. And what an odd sight that is to know that that man, number 44, Reggie Jackson, is not in the lineup on the 8th day of October. Schofield hits it high in the air to left center field, and it's Armas circling it and making the catch. So there are 2 down, and Boone coming up.
As you mentioned, Al, you get the feeling that on routine plays, you're going to have enough time to fight off the sun, get your sunglasses down. But how about the line drives or the balls that are the questionable plays? That's when the sun is really going to affect you, and plus later in the game when the sun gets a little bit lower. It was a routine fly ball, and Armas made it look a little bit difficult, mainly because of the sun.
Bob Boone, who was 2 for 3 last night and drew the walk that ignited the 2-out second inning 4-run rally. Boone, who has now caught more games than anyone in history outside of Al Lopez. Look for the strike. 0-1. Boone, whose father Ray, of course, a great major leaguer for years, and Bob now has a 16-year-old son who's a fine ball player, being scouted by Grandpa.
Early a shortstop, I think by the name of Brett. Kurt Gowdy was talking about Bob's father, Ray. Said he may have been the best hitter he ever saw that came to Fenway Park and hit. And that's quite a statement. Kurt was Red Sox broadcaster for many years. Then you see Bob Boone way out on front on that forkball. Again, if you just had a forkball, it'd be one thing, but Bruce Hurst throws around 91, 92 miles per hour. He's shown him the curveball. He's gotten it over. So he's basically giving them 3 pitches to look for. He's getting them all over. And low in the strike zone.
Fouled away. Boone trying to get into the World Series for the second time. He was the Philly catcher in 1980 when they beat Kansas City. His father also played in the World Series. Interesting to note, his father, Ray, played in 6 Major League games with the Cleveland Indians in 1940. Just 6. Was eligible for the World Series, got into 1 game, and struck out against Warren Spahn. Popped in the air. Boggs, and some help now from Owen. And it's the better angle for Spike, who drops the ball. As he crossed into the shade, he drops the ball. And thus Owen, who made an error last night, will get charged with another one.
Again, the shortstop has the better angle, as you said. But it looks like a late call, and right there you see the shadow. Didn't look like he picked the ball up, but should have made the out very easily. Last night, first error was on a ball where he underestimated the speed of Rob Wilfong. Took a little bit too long, about 3 or 4 steps. If you look at that graphic, it's played very well over the last 129 games, but if you add the last 2 errors in 2 games.
Breaking pitch, got him looking, strike 3. And at the end of an inning and a half, it's the Red Sox 1 and the Angels nothing. National League Championship Series begins in about 4.5 hours. The New York Mets against the Houston Astros. Dwight Gooden and Mike Scott is tonight's matchup. Keith Jackson and Tim McCarver will be with you from the Astrodome tonight on ABC. As Gedman starts the bottom of the second with a base hit into left center field. So the Red Sox, who hit some shots off McCaskill but settled for 1 in the bottom of the first, begin with a ringing base hit by Gedman in the bottom of the second.
So you try to make an adjustment. This is a changeup. They hit the curveball and the fastball. Not a bad pitch, except it ends up in left center field. So Bob Boone talked about Kirk McCaskill maturing. Saw that his fastball and his curveball got hit hard in the first inning. You try to go to something differently, and Gedman stings it into left center field. You got to be wondering what is going to be working for you.
Half swing by Armish, and the count is 0-1. In there again, and the count now 0-2 on Armish, who was 0 for 3 last night. Foul tip and held by Boone. And now Armish is contending that it bounced. The plate umpire is McCoy, and McCoy getting some help at first base from Terry Cooney, who agrees with Armish that the ball bounced. And thus it is not a strikeout.
No, but an excellent snag job by Bob Boone, and there you see the ball bounce. We talked last night about his ability to frame pitches, try to get away with another one. First thing I said, doesn't get away with that one. Tony just completely fooled by the curveball. And again, the shadows already, Al, have crept a little bit in front of home plate. Makes the spin on that curveball hard to pick up. We said McCaskill has an awfully good one.
1 out. Gedman at first base, and Spike Owen. Switch hitter. Owen, along with the outfielder Dave Henderson, coming over from Seattle in the deal that sent Ray Quinones, among others, to the Mariners. Looking at a strike, and so Owen has helped to solidify the Boston infield, though he's had his problems already with 2 errors in the championship series. 1-2 pitch is chopped toward short. Schofield has it take a wicked hop, and it winds up in center field, and a break for the Red Sox. It would have at least been a fourth, probably not a double play. It was too slowly hit, and instead runners at first and second.
Good curveball, just slapped to the infield. Schofield immediately knows, as you said, he can only get one, and right there it hits the edge of the dirt and the grass. Base hit into left center field.
And now Wade Boggs, who tripled off the wall, takes a strike in the count 0-1. On the outer half for a strike, and it's 0-2.
As we said, they are trying to get Boggs out with curveballs. First time they got one up in the strike zone, he tripled off the wall. Something he is so adept at doing.
Whacks it foul. As is the case with most great contact hitters, he will foul off a lot of pitches with 2 strikes.
We talked about last year hitting .390 with 2 strikes. You go back to look at the American League batting championships.
As it's shot to the left of the mound and lost in the sun by McCaskill. So we've already seen the outfielders with problems, and now on a chopper, McCaskill can't find the baseball. Remember, years ago, it was Billy Lowe's of the Dodgers, and they laughed at him when he said, I lost a ground ball in the sun. He has some company.
As I said, it's right over the right, really the third base dugout. And right here, he looks like he's going to field it easily. Right there, you can see him duck. He doesn't see the ball at all. Loads up the bases.
And thus the Red Sox on a single by Gedman and a bad hot single by Owen, and a ball lost in the sun, have the bases loaded, and Barrett is the batter. Strike. It is ruled. No, it has not ruled anything yet. And they're going to give McCaskill an error. In there, and with the infield at double play depth, again McCaskill gets out in front, 0-2. 0-2 pitch is grounded, base hit into left field as Gedman scores, and they hold Owen at third. It's 2-0. And Marty Barrett, 2 hits last night, now has 4 consecutive hits in 2 games.
Well, this is where the strength pays off. He says that by doing Nautilus, he's been able to pull the ball a little bit more. You saw him fight off the ball away down the right field line. McCaskill tries to come up and in quick enough. He said when you're a little bit stronger, you know where the bat head is. He got the bat head out, single in the left field for another run.
And Marcel Latchman, the pitching coach, comes to the mound, and the irony here is as he goes to the mound, he passes his brother, Rene Latchman, who is the third base coach for the Red Sox. Not exchanging secrets here, however. They both were in the same shot. Former manager right there of the Seattle Mariners and Milwaukee Brewers, and now coaching third under McNamara. Bill Buckner lined to center in the first, so the bases loaded. Owen at third with Boggs at second and Barrett at first. There's Spike. Chopper fielded by Joiner, who goes to Schofield, 1 back to McCaskill. He's on the bag for the double play. Big double play, and the Red Sox come up with just 1. After 2-0 Boston. Big play here by McCaskill covering, and it takes the Red Sox out of what would have been a very big inning.
Well, we talked about the Angels defense, second best in the American League. Looks like spring training. Joiner to Schofield to McCaskill covering. You just hesitate slightly, you don't turn the double play, and a run scores. As it is only 2-0, you stay out of the big inning situation.
And Gary Pettis, the number 9 hitter, leading things off. Switch hitter to be followed by Burleson and Joiner. Third inning, 2-0 Boston. Fouled away, and it's 1-1. By the way, they've changed the scoring. What was originally posted as the error charged to McCaskill on the chopper he lost in the sun is now an infield single for Boggs, and thus 7 hits for Boston. Tomorrow is a day off, and that man, Oil Can Boyd, will be on the mound Friday when we'll be in Anaheim at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock on the Pacific Coast. Oil Can Boyd and John Candelaria in Game 3 Friday night. Grounded toward the hole. Nice stop by Boggs with good range. Gets him. And it's tough to get Pettis.
Even though it's a little easier from the right side, Boggs said he thought he would be bothered by the hamstring going to his left. We've already seen the triple. Everybody talked about his defensive inadequacies when he first came up. No longer. Makes the play when he had to. Perfect throw right to Buckner.
Burleson is the batter. By the way, we saw the old newspaper, Ferris against Dixon. That was 1946. World Series, Red Sox and the St. Louis Cardinals, with the Cardinals winning it at 7. In there for a strike, and the count 0-1. One and one to count. The bird.
Good enough for what?
That's Mark Friedrich.
How many more times?
In the air to right field. And Evans with the shades down makes the catch. 2 away. Mark Friedrich, who's from New England, and remember the year he had with the Tigers in '76, talking to the baseball and the antics on the mound. And I believe he's in the pool building business in New England, which is a very seasonal job, I would assume.
Especially up here.
Yeah. The bird himself.
We're not talking Anaheim.
No.
Villa Park and Anaheim Hills all year round there. Hey, maybe he will be moving. Boy, what a year he had.
Wally Joiner with a count 1-0, hits it high in the air and deep to right field, and into the corner goes Evans and makes the catch. He plays it like he owns it, and he's good. He's owned it since 1972. Dewey is the saloon for Evans. That's his nickname as he and the Red Sox trot off the field.
Another look. The only where you can hit a cheap home run as a left-hander is right down the line, the foul pole. Then it goes back again, right to the wall. Doesn't even spill the drinks to the out.
Bottom of the 3rd inning at Fenway Park with Jim Rice at the plate. He has swung and missed at the first offering from Kirk McCaskill, and the 0-1 pitch is outside. 1-1 on Rice, who'll be followed by Baylor and Evans. Middle of the order, bottom of the 3rd, 2-0 Red Sox. Good fastball. 1-2. One way to take a look at today's game. The ultimate cheap seats. Good breaking pitch. Got him. Off speed, low and in, and down he goes.
Those are only cheap seats if you get down safely, or should I say if you get up safely.
One away. Well, tonight, game 2, or game 1 of that series, tomorrow night anyway, game 2 of the National League Championship Series, Mets and Houston. And then Friday, we're back with you from Anaheim as it's grounded foul outside 3rd by Baylor, who checks his bat, and we'll probably go back for a new one. Again, tomorrow night, game 2, tomorrow night, New York and Houston, game 1 obviously tonight. Game 3 of our series on Friday. And the night games all begin at 8 Eastern time. Baylor, who singled in the 1st inning. Singled off the wall.
Very hard. A rocket off the wall. Interesting thing, there are so many Red Sox, and everybody looks at this ballpark. The wind blowing out today as a home run ballpark. Baylor with 31 home runs, 22 on the road, only 9 here.
Very deep and very foul.
And you go to Dwight Evans, 26 home runs, 18 on the road, 8 here at Fenway Park. Gedman, 16, 14 on the road, only 2 here. It's a little bit more difficult as a left-handed hitter to hit home runs in Fenway Park.
2-2 the count. It is odd the way things have worked out for the Red Sox this season, playing extremely well on the road, and as Jim just pointed out, a lot of power away from home, and the great pitching. And For years, the Red Sox have relied on offense and power and bludgeoning you in Fenway Park. And time after time, coming up short, but this year the pitching really made the difference. And Baylor is on. So Don draws a walk. He's at first base with one down. And Evans coming up. In the first inning, Boggs with that triple off the wall, and then Barrett a right field double. Then in the second inning, they got some breaks after Gedman with a base hit, Owen with a bad hop single, Boggs with an infield hit that McCaskill lost in the sun, and then Marty Barrett drove in his second run of the game with a base hit to left.
It's amazing what a long foul ball will do to you as a pitcher. Become very defensive. We saw a walk maybe as a result of that. Again, when you trail early in a game and you know who you're pitching against, and Hurst has pitched so well, as you said, pitcher of the month, 5-0 in September, even though his October start was a little bit of a disappointment, though they had clinched the pennant. If you're Kirk McCaskill, you know you can't give up a whole lot of more runs, so therefore you maybe pitch a little defensively. And if you pitch defensively in this park, pitching around guys being too careful, you pitch and you walk a Baylor to get to an Evans, the score can go from 2-0 to 4-0 in a hurry.
High fly ball to right field. Fading on it is Hendrick. And he one-hands it. And again, everything out there is going to be an adventure today.
Well, that's also the nature of George Hendricks. George has been known to be a little lackadaisical. He's had a fine career over really since about 1971, but he makes everything look pretty casual, and that was no exception. Sometimes you don't know if that was the sun or that's just George.
Exactly.
Because he's leading the league in inseams.
Pretty good Quinella. Gedman takes a strike in the count 0-1.
Longest inseam in the history of baseball. You look at his pants. Surprised he hasn't caught him on his spikes.
Another move to first base, and he's keeping Baylor honest.
Throw a fucking ball back.
And Baylor is not really much of a base-stealing threat. 2 outs, not going to really be worried about breaking up a double play, but that is one thing he can do with the best of them. So you try to get as big a lead as you can, so you can break up a double play. But here with 2 outs, I doubt if we would see Baylor running.
Hit down to third. Nice stop by the Sensei. Goes to shortwave for the fourth, and that's after Boston in the third. We played 3 at Fenway in game 2. 2-0 Red Sox. Marty Barrett, 4 for 6 already in the championship series. Surrounded by a lot of stars, but fits in very nicely here.
You know, you see all these other guys getting a lot of media and a lot of publicity and everything, but I'm the type of guy that I've never really liked that. And I've always felt that the less attention people pay to you, the less they're going to know about you. And as long as I keep on getting 3-1 fastballs, that's fine with me. Because I see guys like Rice and Boggs and Buckner and them getting 3-1 changeups and sliders, and that don't sound like any fun.
Marty Barrett, who has driven in both runs thus far today, as we go to the 4th inning at Fenway Park, game 2. Angels winning last night 8-1. Red Sox leading today 2-0. And here's Brian Downing. 0-1. Downing, DeCense, and Hendrick. Hit to center field, and Armas comes up and has to play it on a hop, so it's a base hit for Downing, and hit number 3 for the Angels. They've all been singles. It's the first time they've gotten the leadoff man on today, and it will bring up Doug DeCense.
Doug DeCense. DeCense.
Doug DeCense
Excuse me,
hit
Alex.
256 during the regular season.
Well, he did, and as we talked about last night, separated shoulder, has really a chronic back problem. And another one of the players that is in his last year of his contract and had a great year, I believe in 82, and every year it's slipped. This year his batting average has gone up. I guess maybe being on the last year of your contract is a little bit of a motivator, reason for incentive.
It was a career year for DeCense in 82. Hit 301, 30 home runs. and finished third behind Robin Yount and Eddie Murray in the MVP balloting that season. Gene Mauch, who began his managerial career with the Philadelphia Phillies back in 1960. Gene, by the way, well, he was more than a fringe player. He was not a spectacular major league player by any stretch of the imagination, but did play with the Red Sox at one point in his career as the sensei whacks it into left for a base hit. And Downing pulls in at second. So runners at first and second with nobody out, and George Hendrick coming to the plate.
Well, Doug stayed right with that curveball, and again, a lot of times when you're hitting well, Doug last night, single right center. If you get 2 strikes, you shorten your stroke, got a curveball up in the strike zone and did not pull out, just tried to make contact and just whacked it into left field.
The Red Sox will now discuss the options here defensively, and let's see about the Angels, who love to sacrifice. We talked about their prowess in laying them down and bunting and the type of baseball that Gene Mauch likes to play. And here you have Hendrick, who can hit one out in a situation where Mauch may have him lay one down. Let's see.
Well, George sacrificed 3 times during the course of the season. Again, I think one of the interesting things about Mauch is that he very rarely asks his players to do things they're incapable of doing. So if George is not a good bunter, we most likely will see him swinging away, and we did.
And he pops it up, and the infield fly rule is in effect, so it's an automatic out. As Wade Boggs handles it, 1 gone. So Hendrick's swinging away.
4.
It's hard to tell from that look if George missed a sign or if that Gene's just a little disappointed.
I think he'd be a little angrier if he missed the sign. It was almost a look as if, you know, they had it back.
He would have preferred the blooper into right center.
Grich singled in the second inning. 3-1 pitch. Fouled away. Now the count 3-2. Let's see if Mauch has the runners going here. Grich this season struck out 54 times, 313 at-bats. Pretty high rate.
Also, Hurst is a strikeout type of pitcher, but again, it's just one of the many decisions the manager has to make. And it's a calculated gamble here because of Hurst's ability to strike batters out.
Runners go, grounded to third, and Boggs knocks it down, and that's all. And Wade had a lot of things to think about at one time. Runners going, Downing coming into the picture, the possible force play, and through it all, he has a carom off his chest, and the bases are loaded.
No doubt will be an error. Again, as you said, he is thinking maybe of catching the ball, and the ball comes up right there off the top of the heel of his glove, up his chest, loads the bases.
22.
But he's thinking force at third.
Big Schofield.
Again, with a 2-0 lead, I think in retrospect he would have liked to have caught the ball, and he knows he has plenty of time to get Grich at first base. Again, it's one of those instantaneous decisions you have to make as a defensive player, and if you're a good defensive player, and Wade Boggs, as we said, is greatly improved, you usually thought those things out before the balls hit to you.
It's an error. The bases are loading, and Schofield with the count now 0-1. Downing is at third, Vicente at second, and Grich at first with 1 out. So Boggs, thinking double play, winds up with nothing. Bases loaded and 1 out. 2-0 Boston, 4th inning. And he chops it toward the hole. It's backhanded by Owen, and he's too late to third. Couldn't get the ball out of his glove. And so the Red Sox commit another blunder, and the Angels get on the board, and it's 2-1. As the ball gets stuck in Owen's glove.
It's a heads-up play because he knows that the easiest play is to get the lead runner right in front of him. Take another look at it right there. About 4 or 5 steps, similar to last night. By the time he makes the play, DeCince's into third safely. A lot of hustle by Doug DeCince, not assuming that he is not going to be involved in the play. Beats the throw.
Say what? They scored a hit. 2-1, and Boone is the batter, and he pops it up in the infield, and the Red Sox will get a definite out here. This is the infield fly rule. And thus, in an inning in which they committed an error and should have been charged with a second, the only 2 outs have come on infield flies. You can't miss.
That's what I call a smart pitcher. A couple of grounders.
Right.
One goes for a hit. Probably should have been an error. The other one is an error, so you go for the pop-up.
And now Pettis is at the plate. So Schofield gets credit for an infield hit, which also gives him an RBI.
And a field.
Pettis, meanwhile, grounded out in the 3rd inning. 2 hits and a walk last night. To center field toward Armas, who comes charging in, makes the catch. Never a dull moment, huh? A run, 3 hits, an error, lead 3. Boston 2, California 1 after 3.5. 4th inning in what has shaped up as a most interesting little confrontation here, with bad hops and errors base running as well. Keep in mind, Marty Barrett caught off second in the 1st inning, and that cost Boston a run. Red Sox on top 2-1 as we go to the bottom of the 4th. Tony Armas, Spike Owen, and Wade Boggs against Kirk McCaskill. Armas struck out in the 2nd inning. 1-0.
That's not unusual for Tony Armas. 3 years ago when he led the American League in home runs, also led them in strikeouts with 156. So very much of a free swinger. Disappointing year from a home run standpoint. Slow start, platoon with Steve Lyons, who was eventually traded to the White Sox for Tom Seaver. John McNamara's basic plan was to platoon Steve Lyons, a left-handed hitter, with Tony Armas. Take a look at John.
Hit down to first, and Wally Joiner will handle it. 1 up and 1 down in the bottom of the 4th inning. And Spike Owen comes up. Owen with a bad hop single in the 2nd inning, and that led to a run.
5. Spike Owen. Shortstop, Owen.
Owen coming over to the Red Sox in August and has been earning his money defensively up until the last couple of games. As a hitter, he hit just 183 since the trade and wound up at 231 overall when you combine his figures with the Mariners. In there, and the count's 2-2. Game 3, the pitchers again will be John Candelaria for California and Oil Can Boyd for Boston. Candy now the number 3 starter, and Don Sutton, the number 4 starter, will work on Saturday. We saw Witt last night. He was brilliant. McCaskill today. Funny the way things worked out for the Angels. They had another good young pitcher, Ron Romanek, who had a terrible year, wound up in the minors. And all of a sudden, Candelaria comes back from the disabled list, and Sutton, the fountain of youth, and it's a different rotation. Chopper to Joiner, who short hops it, and then tags him going by. So 2 away on 2 ground balls to Wally, and it will bring up Boggs.
26. Big Boggs.
Red Sox have been pretty silent offensively the last several days. They lost that 4-game series to the Yankees, and counting last night, the Sox came into today's game with 23 hits in their last 5 games. There are some breakdowns on the numbers on McCaskill, and indicating to you that he gets stronger as he moves along. They get to him early, and they got to him early today for a couple of runs and 7 hits.
He did hit a lot of balls hard, and I think, though, that indicates to me that we talked about his relative inexperience. A lot of times young pitchers really don't know what they have. It takes them 2 or 3 innings to determine that.
Grounded to short, and Schofield throws out Boggs, and that's the first time the Red Sox have been set down 1-2-3. 4 complete at Fenway Park. Boston 2, California 1.
Hitter.
Rick Burleson to lead things off for California. Top of the 5th inning. Coming back to Fenway Park, he was the Red Sox regular shortstop in '75.
To be able to come back here and play in the playoffs is a special feeling, because I played my first 7 years of Major League Baseball here at Fenway, and it's a great baseball town. The fans are very knowledgeable about the game, and they're very excitable, and for me, it's a bigger thrill than I think a lot of other players, but I'm happy for them.
And for Rick Burleson, and we detailed it last night, an amazing comeback. Missing, well, really the better part of the last 4 seasons, and then coming back to play not on a full-time basis in 1986, but on the active roster all season long.
A little disappointed about not playing more, but they've had some pretty good years from their middle infielders.
Grounded to short, and Owen guns him down. 1 away.
Come to think of it, he may be the only player that I can think of that came back from conventional rotator cuff surgery to be able to play, hit, and throw at a major league level. If you see Owens to his left, this is what they got him for. Buckner with a stretch.
Spike still having his problems.
21.
That throw starting to tail.
That's what they give the first baseman a big glove for.
Good base.
Wally Joiner. Infield hit and then flied out. Good breaking pitch, and the count is 0-1.
Just missed a home run the last time up. We talked a little bit last night. Everybody said, you asked me, are they pitching him differently? Yes. Maybe less breaking balls. And when you throw him a breaking ball, you want to spot on the outside corner, staying away with the fastball, making him hit the ball the other way, not giving as many balls to pull. But when you consider that he played a full season in the minor leagues last year, went to winter ball where he won the Triple Crown, probably played every day in spring training, then had a fantastic first half, went to the All-Star game, had the shoulder injury. 290 with 22 home runs and 100 RBIs is quite a year for a rookie. He's got to be a little bit tired, but try to get over that in the playoffs.
A drive to deep right field. Evans goes all the way back to the wall with Armas and gone into the bullpen. And Joiner, who just came up short, and Evans had to reach to take an extra base hit away from him in the 3rd, has hit a home run here to tie the game. And that's 4 hits in the 2 games for Wally Joiner, who makes a little bit of history right there.
Everybody says, who does he remind you of? I said Freddie Lynn. Nice, long stroke. Takes a ball really on the outside part of the plate. Quick enough bat. Talked about that shoulder injury. Kept him from lifting weights. He's been able to do that the last month and just hits it in the bullpen. Not an easy place to hit home runs if you're left-handed.
Joiner hit 22 during the regular season, but that's his first home run in over 2 months. He had not hit one since the 5th of August. And Wally World has tied it at 2. Up high. 1 ball and 1 strike to count on Downing. Downing has grounded out, singled and scored a run, leading off in the 4th inning. 2-1.
Really how you go from being a second-place ball club, as the Angels were last year, losing to the Royals by a game, to winning your division. You release somebody like Rod Carew, collectively along with the Angel first basemen last year, only hit 8 home runs, and you get 23 from a rookie.
Buckner handling Downing's pop-up, and there are 2 down here in the 5th inning. And DeCenso is the batter. So Wally Joiner, who told us last night he voted for himself as Rookie of the Year. What a great year, as most of you know, for rookies, especially in the American League, with Jose Canseco of Oakland, and Pete Incaviglia of Texas, and then Corey Snyder of Cleveland, who was called up in the middle of the season and wound up hitting 23 home runs.
Danny Tartabull up in Seattle.
Sure. Swing and a miss, and the count is 0-1.
Well, that was Doug's A swing for a home run. A little smile afterwards. Saw that the first 2 swings last time, and then he went into a 2-strike defensive position and singled to left.
1-1 the count. 2 out, bases empty. Top of the 5th inning. Game 2 of the American League Championship Series, tied 2-2. Good foul.
Everybody talks about the pressure of the playoffs, but I think another thing that makes them so difficult is the time situation. We'll be out in Anaheim, 2 5 o'clock games. You pointed out it does get a little bit darker earlier, but you're talking basically twilight games, and those types of situations, as does today, favors the pitcher. You don't pick up the ball as well.
And the diffused light of October, even in the day games. And think about your memories as a kid going back, thinking of World Series. There's so many of them in Yankee Stadium, and the way the shadows would creep across.
That's right between geography and history. Wanted to see who was ahead,
Yeah,
the Dodgers
right.
or the Dodgers or the Yankees.
Take that little transistor to school with you, and you could see the shadows.
Who cares about Mesopotamia? Let's see how the Yankee score is.
Fouled away. Still 1-2.
You remember Mesopotamia, a great shortstop for the...
Second baseman, I thought.
Well, he was a middle infielder. Let's leave it at that.
Sold cars on the side, didn't he?
Well, back then, that's the only way you could augment your income.
Crowded is short. Owen has to wait for it. Throws, very high throw, and he gets saved by Buckner again. Spike still trying to find the mark. Joiner found the mark, though, and we're tied 2-2. Wally Joiner. A drive to deep right field. Evans goes all the way back to the wall with Armas and gone into the bullpen. Bottom of the 5th inning at Fenway Park in Boston. Al Michaels along with Jim Palmer. Game 2 of the American League Championship Series. We're tied 2-2, and Marty Barrett to lead off, and then in the foreground, Bill Buckner, and then Jim Rice. And so Barrett with a double and a single, 2 RBIs, but a baseline blunder in the 1st inning that cost the Red Sox a run.
That's unusual.
And he is trying to etch his name alongside those with 5 consecutive hits in a championship series game. Or in a championship series. It doesn't have to be in one game. Barrett with 2 last night. And
all been on fastballs.
In there again in the count 0-2. Breaking pitch is in there for strike 3. So Bando and Rivers and Matthews and the gang are not joined by Barrett. Down he goes.
Certainly does. And Kirk McCaskill with 10 games in the 1986 season with 9 strikeouts or more, and pretty good example of how he does it. Sets you up with a fastball and then throws you a curve blowing away at the knees.
Hit toward the middle and a base hit in the center field. So Bill Buckner is at first base with 1 out in the bottom of the 5th inning, and Jim Rice, who has been silent in the 2 games thus far, will try to get noisy. Rice is 0 for 6 and has yet to hit a ball out of the infield in the 2 games. Jim with 20 homers this season and 351 lifetime.
Lifetime batting average of 302 going into the season. Certainly enhanced that by hitting 324 this year. Talking to him before the game, and he said, it seems like they want to try to get me out inside, so I'm going to have to look for the ball in.
High and hard, and it's 0-2. And down he goes on a breaking pitch again, and so Rice is a very silent 0 for 7. And that's 4 strikeouts for McCaskill.
Another great curveball. Starts About belled high and ends up on the ground. Pretty good indication. If you look at the hitters, you can see them squinting. It is not easy to see. Throwing a ball, it's supposed to be white, but by the time you put that Mississippi mud on it, it's kind of a cocoa brown, throwing out of a background that is bright and sunny. Just not the best time to hit.
Little squibber foul in the count 0-2. 2-2. 2-2 to Baylor, missing ball 3. So a full count, and that means Buckner, get the ankle and all, off and running with a pitch from first base.
Well, the only walk McCaskill's had so far is to Donnie Baylor, and that's after that long fly ball. So 31 home runs. You have a lot of respect for a guy's power, and he can make a 2-2 game 4-2 in a hurry.
And it's inside, ball 4. Boone, as usual, trying to frame it, but McCoy says no. And now the chance again of Dewey forever.
Right, here's what we're talking about, framing it. Ball's a backdoor curveball. Watch Boone just kind of pull the ball in, hoping that McCoy, who's sitting on the inside shoulder, had too good a view to really be fooled by Bob Boone. And again, walking in the clubhouse, and we walked in early this morning, first thing Billy Buckner said, he kept getting pitches 3 inches outside last night, talking about Mike Witt. Again, talking about what Bob Boone is able to do as a catcher. Expands the width of the plate.
Evans fouling it at the plate, and the count is 0-1. 2 on and 2 out, and the 0-1 to Evans is a chopper foul. 0-2. Evans has gone hitless thus far in the 2 games. Evans with 26 home runs this year. His whole career with the Red Sox.
Very structured hitter, Al. You see a very unusual stance up on his left toe, and you see how he turns it in. That's to keep that left shoulder in, to stay in. Wants to move towards the pitcher. Curveball just misses. Annually, a very slow start. He talked about leading off the year with a home run last night, then went 0 for 19. Needs a lot of extra hitting.
Reaching for it, and it's still a ball and 2 strikes.
Batting instructor for the Red Sox, Walt Reniak. Say this is not his #1 pupil. Most likely he'd say that's Wade Boggs, since he wins the batting championship just about every year, but hours Evans spends with him.
And he pops it up a mile high back of second base, and it's Griggs and it's Schofield looking at each other, and it's in there to give Boston the lead. A very, very high pop-up, and you knew right away that they were in trouble.
The minute you know their look, right here you'll see Bobby take a look at Schofield. That's a little bit after the fact, but he took one look at Dick Schofield early, realized that Dick Schofield wasn't going for the ball, and made the aborted try to catch it.
And that's a 145-foot double for Evans. As Laxman goes to the mound, nothing doing in the California bullpen. So some bizarre runs today. Two Red Sox in the bottom of the 5th inning. Evans given credit for a double. And Gedman fouls it away. Still 1-2. They originally flashed double on the board, and now the totals reflect, and now they're going to change them back on the manual scoreboard in left field to reflect the double. Check swing, and it's in there anyway, and it's, I believe, strike 3 to begin with. And Boone is now gesturing toward first base.
What the fuck?
And Gedman is arguing the call at the plate. So a most unusual ending to the bottom of the 5th inning. Gedman upset about the call.
He's saying he did not swing. Take a look for yourself.
And the inning complete with the Red Sox having the lead. Boston on top 3-2, and George Hendrick to lead things off. 0-1. The bottom of the 5th ending, Boone just trying to make sure that they got the out at first base to make it official, even though what Bob did is scoop the ball up. Then the disputed call, or disputed by Gedman anyway, for strike 3. Pop up, and in the shade comes Buckner to make the catch. One away. And in the bottom of the 5th inning, with Gedman going down on strikes, McCaskill wound up striking the side out. But in between, the Red Sox take the lead on the pop fly lost in the sun. Here's Gritch. Singled, reached on an error, line foul, and the count is 0-1. There's a look as Chet Forte punches up a shot from center field. Gives you some idea of what it's like in the outfield with the glare and the glistening sun, and looking in at the shade. And it's particularly tough right now for the right fielder.
Well, this is one of those fields when you come out to do your workups, you go right to left field and center field, especially about 5:30, to stay out of the sun, because it is the sun field. Almost impossible to see a line drive off the bat.
Gretsch with a base hit, and so Bobby is on for the 3rd time. 2 singles, and he's reached on an error.
You go back to the one-game playoff in 1978. The ball that Lou Piniella lost in the sun was able to catch on one hop, keep in front of him. Could have turned that playoff, really that playoff game, entirely the other way. The Red Sox could have been winners instead of losers.
Ball is hit to the right side. Piniella stares into the sun. Can't find it. It's in there for a base hit. Burleson stops at second base as Piniella had a brilliant throw in from right field. He lost the ball in the sun, but I don't believe he could have caught it. Maybe. But whatever, he had no chance because he simply couldn't see it. Now watch. Remy hit it right on the nose. The pitch was up over the plate, and Jerry got most of it. And you can see as we pick up Piniella in the outfield looking for it. And suddenly there was the ball in front of him. He might have been able to catch it. I don't know. Whatever, it goes for a base hit.
Two and oh.
Really what he's trying to do is get them to Calvin Schiraldi in the bullpen. That's going to be the case. Something that you have to keep in mind. You saw Bob Stanley come in last night. First hit was a hanging slider to Downing for 2 more runs. So something you have to watch is how long will McNamara go with his starters.
Base hit into center field. So Schofield with a single to center and holding at second. Taking the turn, Bobby Gritch. And the Angels with 2 on and 1 out, and Bob Boone coming up.
Schofield, a far superior hitter the last couple years, set his powers down. It's a low fastball. He almost hits Hurst right in the forehead. Ducks under it. 1st and 2nd.
And Bill Fisher will be going to the mound, and the Red Sox will commence activity in their bullpen, as the Angels have now wrapped out 8 hits in 5 1/3 innings. We've had 17 hits in the game and yet only 5 runs, and Steve Crawford is throwing in the pen. And Crawford, middle and long reliever, was activated, came off the disabled list, and he was the last man added to the roster when it was determined that Tom Seaver would not be ready to pitch in the playoffs. And that's wrapped into left field for a base hit. Rice up with the ball, and they are holding him at third, and as he rounds third, Gritch is tagged out, and Gritch is really angry with Moose Stubing, the third base coach, because Stubing never gave a sign. I was looking at Stubing, and Moose was not giving Gritch a sign, and that's why Bobby is furious, and he had nowhere to go because as he tried to go back, Schofield was heading toward third.
Well, in this ballpark, very difficult to score on a hard hit ball to left field. And what Rice does is hit the cutoff man. Boggs with a nice play. You're out. Again, it is a mistake by Moose Stubing. What makes third base coaching so difficult. You have to make it. You can see right there, Bobby looking. It's too late. He slips. He knows he's out. Then he becomes furious.
And 2 on and 2 out, and the pitch in for a strike to Pettis. And the count is 0-1.
And it's not something you like to do as a player to show up your coach, but I think it shows the intensity that the Angels have. Bobby Grich especially. That's why he's had the type of career he's had. One of the more intense players that I ever played with. Wants to win very badly.
0-2. And so base running blunders have cost each team a run. Barrett trapped between second and third on a grounder to the left side in the first inning. Cost Boston a run. And now Grich rounding third and tagged out. So 2 on and 2 out, and 0-2 on Pettis. Half swing foul. Still 0-2.
Well, something they talked about in New York last year when Bobby Valentine, third base coach for the Mets, went to manage down in Texas. They said he was very aggressive. It's a very difficult position. If you have been a third base coach for a long time in Fenway Park, you usually don't even think of sending a runner in that situation.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
You know your hitter, Bob Boone, you know they're not playing him very deep in left field. Ball's hit hard. Even a left fielder with a bad arm is going to make a decent throw. And if you take a look at Moose Stubing, I'm sure, no doubt, very disappointed that he did not hold up good.
And Hurst gets out of it. The Red Sox with some rabbit feet in the 6th and a 3-2 lead after 5.5. We're going to the bottom of the 6th inning at Fenway Park in Boston with the Red Sox on top trying to square the series, leading 3-2. And for Boston in the bottom of the 6th inning, it'll be Armas, Owen, and Boggs against Kirk McCaskill. Boy, it's been a bizarre game with base running blunders and fly balls lost in the sun and ground balls lost in the sun and non-signs by the third base coach. And it's 3-2 Boston in the bottom of the 6th inning. Armas hits a chopper toward the hole, backhanded by Schofield, and he gets him. 1 pitch and 1 away. And Spike Owen coming up. He's 1 for 2.
Spike Owen. Shortstop.
Gene Mock, and behind him, Moose Stubing. The irony here, and Reggie Jackson comes into the picture. Stubing is a basketball official, and a good one, in the offseason, so he has taken a lot of heat for calls through the years, and he'll take some heat for a non-call today.
Well, he knows he made a mistake.
Sure.
Saw Reggie standing in front of him, trying to shield him. Again, this is a team game. Part of winning is having good coaching, and it's not to indicate that Moose is not a good coach. He's done a fine job as their batting coach. He made a mistake, and it's happened.
Yep. And you're exactly right. Nobody knows it more than Stubing right now. Or feels worse about it, I'm sure. 1-2 the count. You're right, though. The third base coach really does take a lot of heat, and that's been the case in Boston this summer as well. They've been getting on Rene Lashman.
Well, they got on
2-2.
They got on Bud Harrelson when he took over for Bobby Valentine in New York. They said he wasn't aggressive enough.
Yeah.
It's announcement yesterday in Baltimore, or excuse me, Monday. Cal Ripken will be the new manager of Baltimore. he's been a great third base coach, and they will miss him. They would probably be a very good manager. 30 years, done it at every level, but it's somebody you need on a ball club because it's a very important job. You know, at first, you just tell him, go to second. Plays usually in front of you. At third, Rich looked at Stubing all the way, and he was relying on him. He just wasn't able to give him any help.
Joiner makes the play unassisted, 2 down.
Those things happen.
And there are those in Los Angeles and Southern California who wrongfully think that Joey Amalfitano, the third base coach of the Dodgers, was responsible for Pedro Guerrero's injury in the spring on the slide at third.
How about the famous Willie Randolph play?
Sure.
Back in the playoffs, I believe, 1980.
Mike Ferraro.
Right.
And Steinbrenner, and the shot of Steinbrenner, and the disgust so evident in his face. So rarely do they get the credit, but they sure get a lot of blame. Coach in third.
See something you saw off camera. Gene Mauch defending his third base coach. He knows he made a mistake too.
Liner and perfect positioning by Grich. That's a base hit normally, but not where Bobby was playing. Down go the Sox, and we go to the 7th. 3-2 Boston.
Award winner Dwight Gooden goes against the man who could win it this year. 1986 strikeout king Mike Scott. New York meets Houston. Game 1 tonight.
Top of the 7th inning. Tight one at Fenway. Game 2 of the American League Championship Series. The Angels winning last night behind Mike Witt 8-1. And the Red Sox leading today 3-2 as Rick Burleson, the leadoff hitter, top of the order in the top of the 7th inning. Looks at a strike. Burleson, Joiner, and Downing with Bruce Hurst working for Boston. Burleson 0 for 3 today and pinch hit last night, fouling out. Fly ball to right center and shallow. In comes Evans along with Armas, and Tony can't make the catch. Armas playing deep and getting a late start, but it still looked as if he'd make the play until the very end.
Well, an excellent effort by Tony, but scouting report, he's lost a couple of steps. Just can't come up with that. No doubt a couple of years ago would have made the play. You're playing Burleson around to right center.
Wally Joiner, first base.
Take another look at Wally Joiner's home run that tied up the game at 2-2. High fastball out over the plate. Really gets into it.
Joiner also with a deep drive to right field, which Evans caught at the barrier in the 3rd. And he takes a strike. So Burleson at first base. Joiner looking down at Stubing, not out of the question that Wally would bunt, even with his power. He's laid down several this season, but he's also swinging a hot stick. And Mauch has to think about that. And the question that Gene has to think about now is, do you want to advance the runner, as would be the case perhaps off times lefty against lefty in the regular season, or the way he's swinging the bat, do you want him to swing away? 1-1.
In most instances, managers like to take advantage of that hole between first and second. You have Buckner holding Burleson on, creates a good situation where a routine ground ball will most likely set up a first and third situation. Makes it easier to score a run. Sacrifice fly can do that. See a curveball taken high for ball 1.
And 34,000
ball 2.
roar in disapproval.
Again, you can see Larry McCoy down in his crouch. Pretty good looking pitch. If you're a pitcher, you want it. Of course, if you're a hitter, you want it to be called a ball, and it was.
That's grounded to the right side. Barrett to Owen to first, and Buckner stays on the bag. Billy Buckner with the palpitation.
Oh, he's worried about a collision. We talked about the fastness of the infield here. You see how quick the ball gets to Barrett. Owens with a throw. A little bit up the line. Again, Owens has not been very accurate with his throw. Buckner stays on the bag. They usually get Joiner.
2 down, and Brian Downing is the batter, and he takes high for a ball. 1-0.
There is a 45-foot line the runner's supposed to stay in, but that's not always the case. So if you're a first baseman, you have to come across the bag sometimes, even though that wasn't an extreme circumstance. You sometimes worry about the collision factor, and I think that's what Billy was pounding his heart about.
And the last thing Buckner would love at this point would be for somebody to step on that foot.
It's interesting. I talked to Dr. Arthur Pappas, who is the team physician up here, and we talked last night about the left ankle, but really he's had trouble with both ankles. Left one's the one that's going to be operated on.
2 balls and 2 strikes, an appeal, and no, says Terry Cooney.
Quite a contrast to last night, Al. After the 8-1 deficit late in the ball game, fans were not in the game, very much so today. They are cheering on almost every pitch.
And Brian Downing, who will be 36 tomorrow, gets no early gift from Hurst. After 6.5, 3-2 Boston.
IBM presents You Make the Call.
With 2 runners on, a batter hits a ground ball to the second baseman. But after he touches the ball, the second baseman collides with the runner from first. Is the runner out? You make the call. Because the runner ran into the second baseman after he had a chance to field the ball, it's not considered interference. So if you said the runner was not out, then you made the right call.
All right, scoring summary. First inning, Barrett drives in Boggs with a double, 1-0. Second inning, Owen with a bad hop single. Boggs a base hit. McCaskill lost in the sun. And then Barrett with another base hit, 2-0. The Angels got a run. Key play there. The error by Owen following the error by Boggs in the 4th inning to make it 2-1. Joiner's home run tied the game in the 5th. And then Evans with what appears graphically as an RBI double, lost in the sun between Grich and Schofield, and that was the key blow, so to speak, in the bottom of the 5th, and the difference in the game right now. Bottom of the 7th, 3-2 with Barrett leading off for Boston, taking the strike. Barrett, Buckner, and Rice against McCaskill. No balls and 2 strikes to count. Strike 3, and Barrett knows it. And that's 6 strikeouts for McCaskill. And he's set down 5 in a row now.
And looking for that curveball. Look at this fastball. Right outside part of the plate. Boone frames it. McCoy sees it. Barrett goes to the bench.
Bill Buckner, his base hit in the 5th inning, setting up what turned out to be the tie-breaking run. He scored it, and it's dropped by Griggs. And Jody Buckner. No doubt who her favorite is. And now she'll root for a favorable scoring call, but she won't get it.
Well, this is going to be an error. Again, not an easy play, but one that Bobby Grich normally makes. Backhands it. Buckner does not run well, just cannot come up with it. Therefore, the error.
And Buckner going to a new insole at first base. And we've touched on it several times as we've covered Buckner through the years. When he came up with the Dodgers in the early 70s, he had a lot of speed. And then he suffered a very severely sprained ankle in a game against the Giants one night in '74, and it really cut him down. Jim Rice, 1-0. Rice still trying to hit the ball out of the infield, and I mean, he is really a quiet 0 for 7. 3 strikeouts, a foul out, and 3 little grounders. One and one.
You mentioned the 351 lifetime home runs. His bat has a way of getting noisy in a hurry. One and two. I saw Jim Rice say that ball is down. judge for yourself. It is down. Again, look at the way he catches the ball out in front of him, giving the umpire a good chance of seeing the pitch. One of those pitches that if your glove goes down as you receive it, the umpire says, yeah, the ball was low. You let the ball come to you. Again, it's a matter of really, if you talk about some infielders, it looks like they have very soft hands. If you wanted to describe Bob Boone's hands behind the home plate, they are very soft. Just kind of cushions the ball.
A line in the center and a base hit, and Buckner will hobble into second. And so Jim Rice with his first hit of the playoffs. And the Red Sox with runners at first and second and one out, and Don Baylor coming up.
We'll talk about strength. He hits the same pitch he disagreed with being a strike, fights it off and hits it into center field on the line.
And that will provoke activity in the California bullpen. Don Baylor takes a breaking ball away. 1-0.
McCaskill's control has been perfect with the exception of Don Baylor. First time up, smashed a single off the bottom of the wall, and he walked him the next two times.
Late swing and the count 1-1. The count. Breaking ball hit foul. Still 2-2. Gary Lucas, the left-hander, and Doug Corbett, the right-hander, are throwing in the California bullpen. Their stopper, their closer, is Donnie Moore, but he's not up because the Angels don't have the lead.
They have Lucas up in case they get two hitters down the line for Rich Gedman, lefty versus lefty.
And it's 3-2. So 3-2 on Baylor with Buckner at second and Rice at first. And we'll see if they go.
Obviously a big pitch, and got behind 2-1 and threw him a curveball. You might see it again.
The runners stay 4-4. And the Dewey chant going up, and they're in full voice with the bases loaded. So Don Baylor's perfect day continues, a single and 3 walks. And those are the only walks yielded by McCaskill.
Again, that's what makes this lineup so much better than it was last year, the respect they have for Baylor. It gets Rice more pitches to hit. It puts Evans in a position where he's going to have more runners on base. Talking about a very patient hitter. Walked 97 times this year. Last year led the American League in walks with 114. This year was Wade Boggs.
Grounded to third, knocked down by DeCinces, and he doesn't make the tag. And Doug, who might have had a double play, gets nothing. 4-2 Boston.
It's just a matter of making the play or not. It's not an easy play. High curveball, hit very hard. Right here, he chooses to backhand it. Probably has a play at home plate. Tries to make the... Again, you take another look at it. Nice with a pretty good slide. Just misses him. Everybody's safe.
Gedman, the batter, takes outside. I'm wondering with his body language, I'm trying to guess what he was thinking. Was he thinking step on third, go to first? Was he thinking home? As Gedman grounds it down to second, and Gritch goes to Schofield 1. Back to first, and they still can't get the double play. And a second run will score as Baylor crosses the plate, and the Red Sox lead 6-2.
You have to give all the credit to Dewey Evans. Right here, perfect double play ball. What's the slide? Right here, Schofield. Evans coming in hard, throws his hands up, may have even deflected off his hands. Continuation of this play is a on-his-knee throw wide of the mark at home plate for the second run.
And Waxman goes to the mound, and Schofield...
Excuse me, it looked like he threw his hands up, which really is it's legal as long as you don't intentionally try to deflect the ball. Again, both hands up.
But he's making a case, or he could make a case, for that being part and parcel of the slide to keep his balance. In any event, it works. It's a force and an error on Schofield, and it's up and in to Armas, and that's 3 errors in the inning now for the Angels.
Again, a team that we talked about, the only team that made less errors were the Toronto Blue Jays. For most of the season, the California Angels were leading the American League in the least amount of errors. Finished second in fielding.
2-1. It was Gritch's error on Buckner's grounder that opened the door. Then DeCinces makes the error. And Schofield gets charged with the third in the inning. And Armas is swinging a miss, and the count is 1-2. And Boston on top 6-2.
Go back to last night's ball game. It looked like all the great plays were made by the Angels in this inning, but really incapable of making the ones they've had to make to stay in the game.
Grounded to third. DeCinces backs up, and the Angels finally get out of the inning. But they give Boston what amounts to 6 outs. And the Red Sox cash in for 3. As Armas comes out, Jim mentioning before that Armas has lost some speed. We saw him go a long way and not catch up with a pop fly single off the bat of Burleson. And Henderson, who came over in that Spike Owen deal along with Owen from Seattle, is the center fielder. Meanwhile, a nightmarish bottom of the 7th for the Angels. And they trail 6-2 as we go to the top of the 8th. And DeCinces to lead off. DeCinces, Hendrick, and Gritch, and the pitcher's outside, ball 1. DeCinces is 1 for 3. In the air to right field. Fielding is Evans, and he makes the catch. And fortunately for Dwight, and for Hendrick as well, they'll only have to worry about the sun for another 5 or 10 minutes.
Well, the alternative to that is to play very shallow. That unfortunately doesn't help your pitching staff sometimes. Really, again, just another routine fly ball that's made a little bit more difficult. If you have to make a long run, a lot of times you have to take your eyesight off the ball, and by the time you look back into the sun, there's no way of picking it up.
0-1 the count on Hendrick. Hendrick 0 for 3 today. Buckner backs up. Nice play. Overhand flip just in time. Buckner is always up among the leaders. In fact, almost every year leads first baseman in assists. Partly because of his lack of speed. And he needs the help in covering first, and obviously he needed it in that particular case. But he's got that 3-1 play down to a science.
Well, they give the edge in this series to Wally Joiner defensively over Buckner, but certainly has made some fine plays in games that we've done all year long, and I think he's a little bit underrated. He may be not as good as Joiner, but it's not going to hurt you that much at first base. Doesn't have the fleet of footness, so to speak, as he used to have. But when you play first base as long as Billy has, you know how to play the hitters, and that's sometimes major part of the game.
Little squibber down to short, and it's Owen over the first, and it's a 1-2-3 inning. Angels gone. Sox coming up from the bottom of the 8th. Boston ahead, 6-2.
Keep name dropping. Everywhere we go, you name drop.
Now spell it. Meanwhile, new pitcher Gary Lucas in the bottom of the 8th inning.
The left-hander taking over for Kirk McCaskill as the Angels go to the pen for the first time in the championship series. And that's looped foul back above our heads, and the count 1-1. That get your attention?
Yes, it will. Well, Gary disabled most of the year with a bad back. Last year in Montreal, set up man for Jeff Reardon. A little bit of a sinker, slider pitcher. The type of guy you bring in, very much like the Red Sox used Joe Sambito to get that left-handed hitter out every once in a while, and then if the game is really in the balance, you go to your stopper, Donnie Moore.
By the way, on a couple of occasions today, some profanity has leaked into our crowd mics and mics near the dugout, and it's offended some people. We're not happy about it, obviously. It's just the price you pay, I guess, for trying to get the presence and the sounds of the game. 3-1 pitch is up high, ball 4. So Owen draws the walk in the bottom of the 8th inning, and Boggs comes to the plate.
Well, as usual, Wade had a real bad year against lefties, only hit .355, won the batting championship at .357, so it really doesn't matter with what arm you throw.
Bunted to third, to Sensei. Over to first base, Joiner gets the put out, and down to second on the sacrifice goes Owen. So Spike at second with 1 away, and Barrett is the batter. And this telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Ripped into center field for a base hit. Owen is being held at third as the throw is cut off, and back to first, and just getting back is Barrett. So runners at first and third, and Buckner coming up.
The Angels didn't execute defensively very well this time. See Barrett right up the middle, something he does so well. And when you ask Gene Mauch about Gary Pettis, he says he's like playing shortstop in center field. He charges the ball, just Sensei cuts it off, and you almost get the out at first. Instead, you set up the first and third situation. With only 1 out, fly ball scores a run. Stay out of double play. You can move your runners. As we've said, there's very little speed on the Red Sox team, but Marty Barrett, 41 stolen bases total for the Red Sox. Barrett had 15 of them, thrown out 7 times. So if you're going to move a runner, you have a contact hitter at the plate, you have a guy at first that can run. But you have a left-handed pitcher on the mound with a pretty good move.
Down the line in left field and into the corner goes Downing to make the catch. Owen tags, throw goes to second, 7-2. And Billy Buckner with a sacrifice fly.
In those first and third situations, set it up for a veteran hitter to get a pitch he can just hit a fly ball on, and Billy Buckner did that. He had a run.
Gooden and Scott at 8 Eastern time. Game 1 from Houston tonight. Meanwhile, Latchman goes to the mound. And Latchman does make the changes on occasion when he goes to the mound. It doesn't have to be Mauch, and that will be the case here with Rice coming up. We'll be back. Let's do a little what we call, I guess, time frame or still frame time lapse at this point. That's what it looked like at 3:35, middle of the second inning. And as the day progressed, as it normally does, 4:30. That's where the shadows were. And that's the way it was at 5:15 in Beantown. And now live and direct at 5:42 Eastern Daylight Time. Encased in shadow is Fenway Park. And on the mound is Doug Corbett. Corbett, who wears eye black, very rare for a pitcher, but he doesn't need it right now. Jim Rice at the plate. It's a high drive to deep right center field. Pettis goes back, gone.
talked about. Corbett, a sinker ball pitcher, throws the ball down the strike zone. The last time they threw his Rice a low fastball, he zinged it into center. This time he deposited into the right center field bleachers. Really into the bullpen. I talked earlier, Al, about the 351 lifetime home runs. You're that strong, you just hit some fly balls and they just carry and carry and carry and end up over the wall.
9-2 Boston as Baylor fouls it away and the count 0-1. Another look.
And this is one of the strengths of Jim Rice, which is why he has always hit for an average. He does not have to pull the ball to hit for power. Something he's done very often this year, staying out of double plays, hitting the ball the other way. That one went right out of the ballpark.
There he is, the man from Anderson, South Carolina.
A man of many prodigious home runs and prodigious tee shots. I once played golf with him at Spyglass Hill, 619-yard par 5. We're playing in a scramble where you take the best drive, you hit it 383 yards. That one only went about, what, about 150 yards?
A little bit less.
Yeah, a little bit less, but I think he probably enjoyed that one a little more.
2-1 pitch is low, ball 3. 3-1 count. Still 3-2.
Ironic when you assess last night's ball game. I suppose before it happened, you'd say, as Reggie Jackson, it was kind of the game would be decided by one pitch. The score was 8-1. Today, you have a 17-game winner against Bruce Hurst.
That's ripped into left field and off the wall. And Baylor with a long single.
And now you see why they pitched around him the middle 3 times. 2 rockets off the wall and 3 walks. Perfect day.
11.
Been on base all 5 times.
11.
Again, Brian Downing playing the carom perfectly. Holding Don Baylor to a single. So again, when you expect a good pitching matchup, look at the scoreboard and it's 9-2.
Evans at the plate. Looks at the strike and the count 0-1. Great play by the Sensei. And at the end of 8, it's Boston 9, California 2. Jim Rice at the plate. It's a high drive to deep right center field. Pettis goes back, gone. This Saturday, number 1 ranked Miami takes on West Virginia, or 6th ranked Oklahoma against Texas in their annual showdown. That's this Saturday, and a reminder to stay tuned for World News Tonight, originating this evening from Iceland, following your late local news. Well, it is truly the happy hour in Boston, and everybody is ready to celebrate. 7-run lead. Schofield leads off in the 9th inning. Looks to the strike, 0-1. Schofield, Boone, and Pettis against Bruce Hurst, who's been masterful again in Fenway Park.
We were down on the field before the ball game. The skeptics, and there are many of them up here, even though the Red Sox have proved them wrong, coming really along to win their first playoff, or excuse me, get into their first playoff since 1978, said, yeah, Hurst can't win the big ones.
Little looper into shallow center, and Barrett loves it.
And of course, he did pitch the 2-0 shutout against Toronto. Pretty good hitting ball club, led the American League in runs scored. And I said, when is the last time he ever did have to pitch a big one? Well, today was a big game, and so far he's been pitching quite handily.
Bob Boone, 1-3. 0-1 the count. Well, amongst this happy throng, little Ryan Hurst, who's nearly 4 years old, and Holly Hurst.
Rather interesting thing in the interview that you did with Bruce Hurst. The most impressive thing of that graphic is the 0 base on balls. Last night we saw Roger Clemens, normally great control, walk 3 in 1 inning, led to a big inning. Hurst says you don't change the way you pitch when you pitch in Fenway Park, and part of that is throwing strikes, and he's been able to do that all day.
He was the American League's pitcher of the month in September, and it's not a bad start in October.
We talked about had the one other start against the Yankees in that somewhat meaningless weekend series. Did not pitch well, but I wouldn't say that he's been overpowering, but anytime you hold a good hitting ball club like the Angels to 2 runs, the team that scored 8 runs last night, you've done a great job.
The center and it's Henderson. And there are 2 down with Gary Pettis coming to the plate. And so this Fenway throng collectively rising to its feet. And that chance is Bruce. And Bruce will have to wait at least another batter as Pettis singles in the center. So Gary gets his first hit of the day. The Angels have all singles outside of Joiner's home run. And Burleson comes up for the 5th time. 9-2 Boston.
The wonderful vagaries of this sport. Everybody around here so down after last night. Get beat 8-1. Clemens loses. Now on the verge of getting even. Knocked down by Boggs. Goes to second. And we are even. The series stands at a game apiece as we head west. Boston 9.